Yo, what's good fam? Back with your boy Propaganda. So about 2 days ago I had my first game of Warhammer, and fam, it was everything and more than I expected. Something that I wanted to do for about 20 years, and old mate Galandro was kind enough to whip me through my first 40k game. I had an absolute blast finally getting a chance to play through a full game, but as much fun as we were having, it became a little clearer to me that I may not have been as ready for my first game than I originally thought. Not in part due to tactical and strategic tabletop warfare knowledge and experience. In fact, I probably dived too deep into a high level of 40k tactics and overlooked some of the more fundamental aspects of the game, like weapon keywords and stratagem like activation timings. Like, I didn't even use Oath of Moment once, and going up against Astra Militarum, I only used like Armor of Contempt once during the whole game, and I finished the game with 6 CP in the bank. But I'll cover some of those lessons in another video, but for this one I'd like to focus on something else. Aside from the tabletop play, the thing that dawned on me the most was that there was a lot more I could have done to be a better opponent. Keeping in mind this was my first game and I wasn't too sure what to expect, but these are just a few things that I noticed during my first game that would have made it play a bit smoother and increased the overall experience for both of us. I also think it's a good time to point these out early and help reduce the forming of bad habits. Either way fam, don't need to take it too seriously, still just want to have fun. It's just toy soldiers at the end of the day. But here we go. My hobby gaming experience had previously been relegated to trading card games. As a kid I played Yu-Gi-Oh at the local and regional level. These types of games were a little bit different in the sense that there were some shenanigans that you'd keep up your sleeve just to have one over your opponent. And also, like with most card games, you know, you got your hand concealed and things like that. So taking that into 40k, I was expecting to play a little bit more deceitfully, if you could if that's the word you want to use. But essentially I thought it was up to your opponent to school themselves on the knowledge of your army and prepare for war. It's war at the end of the day fam. However, as much as 40k is a game of two players fighting toy armies against each other, the interactions between the players are a bit more open, and both players will generally work through each other's turns, just so you don't really let your opponent walk directly into any gotchas and traps, as often, more so than in traditional card games. And so there's a level of like base knowledge about your army that you should have to be able to share with your opponent, as well as a few additional things that can help keep the game running smoothly, because some of these games are already long, so whatever time you can save helps improve the overall experience for both players. So let's make a little list of the lessons learned at our first game, and there's probably going to be a lot more in future games to come, but I've tried to categorize them to keep it a little neat, but here we go. Lesson 1, be more organized. So this is one thing that I completely dropped the ball on. I was up with anticipation the night before our game until around 2 AM, finishing off a few models and then packing everything up to transport them to the game. I vastly underestimated the size of our fighting force and assumed everything could fit into a couple of shoeboxes. And while we managed to cram everything in the end, transporting things like this probably wouldn't be good for models in the long run. It was also a hassle trying to get everything set up and organized for the game, and then when it came time to packing up, I ended up just throwing everything into the box. I didn't do it as neatly as I did when I was packing up to get ready. But with that, we'd packed our models, chapter codex and data sheets, our tape measure and dice, and then as expected, overslept the next morning and was about 30 minutes late to the venue. LOL. Number 2. Take more than 20 dice fam. So I spent the entire past 6 months getting some models ready and sorted. I forgot to go and buy dice, so I rushed out the day before the game to go and buy some. All I could find were like 20 packs down at the local Warhammer shop, so luckily most of my army only had maxed out at 20 attacks, but I didn't have any like D20 or anything to count wounds on the larger units, or larger models. Yeah, just something else I noticed. Number 3. Alright, so number 3 is probably the most important fam, but know your army. Some of these things also fall into like be more organized category as well. But as we got started, I realized I didn't have the entire set of data sheets for all the units in my army, specifically any of the data sheets for the units in the Space Marine Corps, which was a decent portion of my army because we were running the Blood Angels. So I had a PDF version of the codex on my phone, which was kind of helpful, but it became a hassle having to scroll through looking for unit information that I couldn't 100% remember at that point in time. There was also one moment where my PDF reader shitted itself and it wouldn't load the pages, and I spent a decent couple minutes trying to get that information for the stupid Ballistas Dreadnought. I also just took the entire set of datasheet cards from the Blood Angels Codex instead of just the few I had in my army. So I was like flicking through the entire pile trying to find the couple that I needed mid-game. I'd be forgetting weapon profiles and stuff. I'd remember things like what the unit abilities were, but I'd forget to implement them at the appropriate times. But we'll cover that stuff in the battle report lessons video. And that brings us over to our final category, fam. Don't cheat. So there are a couple of points during the game where I accidentally cheated. Allegations be damned. We'll just address them right now. So I got the effect wrong when resolving the dev wounds and skipped the wound roll and the saving throw on a hit roll of 6. And Gr33n also recently, having got back into the game, was unsure, so just took the damage. We realised after the next turn or so, but just kept playing with the current board state. This one I feel particularly bad about because it was quite simply my fault for not interpreting the rule properly and resulted in a couple of free kills for me. Maybe a more experienced player would have known the rule and could have corrected me, but it's still my models and the weapon effects, so I should have known better. So my bad, fam. Sorry Gr33n for cheating, and I promise I won't cheat in any future games. Alright, to summarise, recap, what now? So in between now and my next game, I'm just going to take the time to get a few more things in order to help the flow of the game go better, just including getting a full set of data sheets for the entire army. Spending a fair bit more time reading the core rules and better comprehending the abilities. Not cheat, form some healthier sleeping patterns, sort out better transport options for the army because the Vans box ain't cutting it, fam. Get a few more dice, practice not cheating and learning to play the rules. Alright, anyway, that's just my recap of a few lessons that I learned in my first game. I like learning from my mistakes, so I'm just keeping a record here, and hopefully maybe this will help you in your future games if you're new to the game as well. Otherwise, fam, be sure to stick around for the full battle report and then again a breakdown of the lessons learned regarding the actual strategy of the game and where we sort of went wrong there. Because you know, fam, on this channel we aren't perfect, but we can always strive to be. No. Drop us a comment if you like this video, fam. Big shout out to the homie Gr33n and the Hut Club Miniature Wargaming Club for hosting us for our first game, and we'll catch you in the next one. Alright, peace. Oh, for sanguineous, yeah, 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 yeah.